We're good? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the town board meeting, March 23rd, 2023. Can I have a motion to open up the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. First on the agenda is review and approve the proposed resolution and stipulation of settlement for, well, before I do that, anybody from the floor have any questions relative to the agenda? No? Okay.
I just got a text from Wendy saying that there's no sound.
No sound. Approve the proposed resolution and stipulation of settlement for 46 Harriman Drive, LLC, tax cert, as prepared by Rob Rometta, Esquire. Rob, the floor is yours.
Yep.
Thank you. This is the, I know about the whip, I think. This is the proposed resolution for the Sapphire Nursing Rehabilitation Center, which was acquired in 2017 for roughly $16 million and change. And since that time, they've had enjoyed a full exemption from taxes, and this year was the first year that they were on the tax roll. They filed the certiorari looking for a substantial reduction. This case became a little complicated because when you're dealing with an income-producing property of this nature, the case law provides that you have to look at the Medicaid and Medicare reimbursement rates, as well as how many beds that occupies, and the beds that aren't covered by such rates, then you have to put a reasonable amount of apartment or rental value to them. So after several back and forths and spreadsheets, we had agreed to roughly an 8.3% reduction in the assessment. And for the town, that would yield a refund of $4,810. The exposure they were looking for was, I would say, at least triple that. And this obviated the need to order appraisal, which again would lead to some uncertainty as the values that would yield. So in view of that, I believe it's a sound settlement after going back and forth with Alan, the town's assessor, and I'm asking for the board's approval.
I got a question. Did they have a pilot? It was zero for 2 years?
They enjoyed a tax payment for longer than it wasn't a pilot. They had an actual exemption.
Yeah.
Well, that was part of Glenarden and right up there. So they were fully tax exempt because they were nonprofit.
Correct. And so this was the first year back, they were back in the roll. Exactly. And we had actually had brought down the assessment in advance, knowing that this was coming, as opposed to having substantial liabilities coming this year. And then this year they filed, and we were able to weed through the inner workings of the Medicare reimbursement to find that it was only going to be an 8.3% reduction.
So the reduction sounds fine. It sounds like it was but did they get an appraisal, did you say?
No, so what would have happened is the court in this case would have ordered a simultaneous appraisal,
Right.
The expense of which would have probably been double the amount of the refund.
Absolutely.
So just the business aspect of it led me to believe that it was safer to take this approach.
Okay, I'm just curious. The school was involved in this?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And they're agreeable to this?
They are.
Because they're like 70% or more.
Yeah,
The tax bite's going to be the schools.
and I think I have that figure. The school who also approved the refund, their exposure, the refund will be $29,187.
Right. I have no problem with a $4,000 refund. I don't know.
Anything else?
No, I don't have anything else. I'll
Make a motion to approve the
Right.
resolution.
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Do you need a roll call on this one or no? I see everyone has to, did everyone have to sign in this or?
Everybody has to, so I need a roll call because you gotta,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so
Yeah?
Phil?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, good.
Okay, next up, review and approve the proposed resolution and stipulation of agreement for Goshen Foundry tax certs as prepared by Robert Meta.
Thank you. So this is an owner-occupied industrial and storage building, roughly 50,000 square feet and roughly 3 acres. They had done a cert a few years ago. We gave them a minor reduction, and they had come forward with their profit and loss statements, as well as the antiquated appraisal from, let me pull this up, it was actually 2018. And just working off of that, what we did was we had reached an agreement to see if we can also, similar to the prior case, avoid the expense of getting a new appraisal in these proceedings because the court would order it simultaneous. So here it amounted to be a 10% reduction, bringing the total refunds, yes, correct. So it's good that the assessed valuation be $548,600 down to $493,740, and the town's tax exposure refund would be a total of
1,020.
correct, over 3 years. So roughly $350 per year for 3 years.
So, on these certiorari adjustments, did this go to court?
This went to court. We had 2 court appearances.
Why, what were they looking for to begin?
80% reduction, 85%. It's a that's
The
how
only
they.
reason I say that is
that's
because
how
I
they always start off.
negotiated, Doug and I negotiated all the certioraries, and with all due respect, we sometimes thought that if we made the adjustment, it would be less than the legal fees we'd have to pay for you to go to court. And that was, so when I see this type of adjustment, which is small, I'm just wondering why we would have to go to court. But if we went to court, why we couldn't come to some kind of agreement before we had to go to court.
I agree, and so this is the process. Is the way this comes about is when they file the certiorari, it's a special proceeding.
Right.
So the court instantly ordered a court appearance. And fortunately for us, it's a virtual court appearance, so it's just a matter of clicking on for literally maybe a half hour at the most without going back and forth to court, and making a schedule as to what information, if any, needs to be exchanged in order to settle the case. This case is exactly what happened. Actually, on the eve of the settlement, the attorney pulled back a little bit, and he looked for, I believe it was roughly like an 18% reduction, and it's at that point where I realizing that it was better just to crush arms and say no, and fortunately it didn't fall apart.
All right.
So Rob, the foundry has one big building, which
Yep.
is facing onto the street, but then
Yep.
it has a series of smaller buildings in the back area there. Does this settlement
This covers,
everything?
it covers all of it. That covers under the lot 18, correct?
Right, okay.
And George, it's that old building.
Oh, yeah.
But the land itself, where that land is that's what makes the price go up.
Sure. Okay, good. I'm good with it. I don't know about anybody else.
Rick? Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Can I
Second?
have one at a time, please? I'm sorry. Doug?
So moved.
Second?
No, second.
Joe?
All in favor? Oh, no, we need a roll call on this?
Roll call.
Yeah, we need a roll call on this.
Yep.
Phil?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Aye. Rick?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Good.
Item number 3, review and approve the performance bond in the amount of $81,700 to ensure completion of activities related to a stormwater pollution prevention plan for Oak Hill Properties LLC, Serenity Acres, an 8-lot residential subdivision along Broadley Road. We have a letter here from Sean.
Good evening. Would you like me to summarize the letter, Mr.
Yes,
Supervisor?
please.
Okay, so essentially, this is Albert Feeney's project. You may be familiar with it. It's called Serenity Acres. Also goes by Oak Hill. It was approved by the planning board last summer, and Mr. Feeney's been working through his resolution conditions of approval. Since you are an MS4 community regulated by the DEC, and since Mr. Feeney's project will disturb between 1 and 5 acres, so more than 1 and less than 5 acres, he's required to prepare an erosion sediment control plan and post a bond. So this bond was based off of his engineer's estimate and actually reduced somewhat because his engineer conservatively included the driveway culverts, which will be bonded under the highway work permits through the highway department. So this is a bond to make sure that he installs and maintains his erosion sediment control practices during construction.
So you feel that it's sufficient to do
Yes, I
the
do.
work?
This is an 8-lot subdivision. Frankly, under your code before the DEC was involved, you wouldn't have required this anyway. You know, it would have been a violation if you didn't do the erosion sediment control. This is just some additional guarantees the
Good.
state requires you to require the developer.
Great.
Sean, is this a cash bond?
No, it is not a cash bond. Your
Performance
code
bond.
has, yeah, performance bond.
So do we make sure that it's like written by somebody that is in New York State?
Typically, what you've done in these instances is you've required it to be in form acceptable to the town attorney, and then Rory will take a look at it and make sure that he's satisfied with it. But this is a short-term bond.
It's not a letter of credit.
No,
It's an
no.
actual bond, right?
No.
Yeah, okay. Good, I'm good with that.
George, anything else? Yep. Okay, can I get a motion to approve
So move.
performance bond? Doug, second?
Second.
Rick, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Alright. Item number 4, review and approve the decommissioning cash bond for New Leaf Energy, AKA Owens Road Solar, in the amount of $297,700.91 for site number 1, and $403,830.04 for lot site number 2. We got a letter from Sean, if you wanna take us through it, Sean?
I think the board is familiar with this project. It's the Owens Road Solar Project out on Owens Road. And the developer is dividing the project into 2 lots, so we can get 5 megawatts under New York State requirements. He's been conditionally approved by this board, conditionally approved by the planning board, and one of your code requirements is to file a decommissioning cash bond. They provided an estimate, which I reviewed. I've increased it a little bit because there were some differences in quantities, but the developer agreed with these numbers today, and he didn't need any additional time for us to discuss further. So I'm asking for the board's approval for these.
But these are cash
These
bonds?
cash.
These are cash bonds by code.
Okay.
Good.
I'll approve the resolution.
So can we do them together or should we do them separately?
That's up to council.
I would do them separately always.
Alright, so can I get a motion to approve the decommissioning bond for lot site number 1 in the amount of $297,700.91?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Could I get a motion to approve the decommissioning cash bond for New Leaf for lot site number 2 in the amount of $403,830.04?
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Right,
Sean, when are they gonna start the work on
You never know. They haven't provided us with a construction schedule. They still would need to post this bond and satisfy some other conditions before they're even in a position to
it? But they've
pull a
been at
building
this a
permit.
long time.
I'm sorry?
Because they've been at this a long time.
Yes, they have. Yeah, they have.
we're gonna make a change in the order. I'm gonna move number 9 up next so that Sean can leave when we're done. Review the letter received from the Goshen Planning Board dated March 17, 2023.
So what you have before you is a letter filed with Attorney Norman, and it was requested by the planning board, I believe at their last meeting, when they reviewed the IWS transfer station, which is proposing an expansion. There was some discussion amongst the board members about when vehicles leave the IWS property, they go on Hartley Road, and then they have difficulty, I'm seeing a head nod from Rick, they have difficulty making that right at Hartley Road because of the geometry of the intersection. The applicant thinks that perhaps if the state were to pull back the stop bar and have vehicles stop further away from the intersection, those trucks would be able to make that turn without going off the edge of the pavement at the corner.
They will.
They likely will,
I
yes.
watched that today,
Yeah.
because I was facing it in the other direction, and that guy got right up there, you know, because he wanted to get out before everybody, and it was not a good thing.
Yeah, so I think that we may be able to request the state to just take a look at it, and hopefully they'll be able to just move the stop bar and resolve the situation relatively easily.
So, go ahead.
The reason it's before you is the planning board doesn't have the authority to make that request to the DOT.
Right.
So if you agree with that, you would either ask Rory, me, or Kelly to prepare a letter, send it to the DOT and ask them to take a
How
look at it.
important is that to the waste company?
Well, it's important for their drivers, but it's not really important to their application. The application is based on the existing conditions Those conditions are outside of IWS's control. They're subject to the DOT, just like you are. But I definitely think it would improve the intersection.
But Phil, that it's not just interstate waste, it's TAM Enterprises and all those other big,
Yes, it is.
huge
I
trucks going
understand,
in and out.
but
Sean, that intersection on the right, when you're pulling out of there, on that right-hand side, I don't know whose property that is, but I kind of think like a right-hand turn lane would fit there.
I don't know if they have the,
Yeah.
that's definitely something they could consider. I
That's
just don't know if they
private
have the property.
John?
It is owned by, I believe, for Hague Industries.
It's for Hagen.
Yeah. So I'm really just going back to the extension that they requested. And has that been approved, or where are we in that extension process?
For the expansion, IWS has been before the planning board twice. They are now making application to the ZBA for some variances.
Variances, huh? Yeah.
So,
Well, we had some difficulty.
Yeah.
They stuck it to us.
Yeah.
At one time, and because they used the roads and so on and so forth. And we thought at one time that we had made an agreement with them that there'd be a host fee to offset some of the problems that we would have with the roads, because primarily they're the ones that were using it the most. And at the last minute, they pulled back and said, nah, we're not gonna do anything. So I'm just wondering how much damage they might do to our roads and how much this expansion is gonna cost us. I'm sorry I haven't been to the planning board meetings, but I didn't realize it. So what,
I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
think you
no,
finished.
go
I
ahead.
can't speak to your past negotiations with them.
I know.
What I can tell you is I know the highway department reinforced that road. They used a concrete stabilization method on Hartley Road, I believe 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
So any traffic from IWS, TAM, Amy's, or anybody else that has heavy traffic there, the road should last longer because of the stabilization methods the highway department used.
But the expansion is going to create more traffic, I presume.
They don't believe so. We're looking at that right now. They
Yes.
don't believe so because they're not permitted. They have a permitted capacity with the DEC, and they're
Yeah.
not allowed to increase that capacity. So this is really more for facilitating receiving of waste and internal
Right.
circulation.
Oh, yeah, the facilitating and receiving is still more traffic. That's what's gonna happen.
No, because their tonnage isn't going up.
What?
They're at maximum tonnage now. They're not increasing their
Why
360.
why do they need the
The
expansion?
the building is falling apart.
Well, that, and they also, right now, they have vehicles coming in, and all vehicles, the ones coming in, the ones exiting, go to the right.
Uh-huh.
All circulation occurs on the northerly side of the property, which is restricted. They'd like vehicles to come in and circle around and then leave
I see, okay.
But the tonnage is the same. So
Correct.
You won't see additional trucks.
daily and weekly.
Okay.
Sean, didn't they help us pay for the road when we redid the construction?
They may have, that was
Yeah, I
handled by
don't
the highway
think so.
department.
I don't think so.
No, I
I believe they
thought
did.
we, no, I thought.
I
we-
believe they
I
helped
thought
us.
that we asked, and then ultimately they said no.
Oh.
No, I
Yes.
don't think-
That
We
was my-
negotiated that. There were, yeah.
There was, there was.
No, no, all right.
I mean, we asked for it.
Go
I
ahead,
don't-
thank you, Sean. I just wanted to go on record and just tell the town board as to the past history. Sometimes it's important when you're thinking of these, especially if they need variances and so on and so forth. But, okay, thank you, Sean.
So we're gonna turn it over to you to,
Write the letter, yeah.
Yep, okay, very good.
So do we need any resolution? to
No.
be
No,
followed
they,
up?
if, DOT could come back and seek a formal resolution, but
Okay.
Not now, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give it to Casey.
Okay. Jumped over that. All right, we now have a PowerPoint presentation from the Green Light Networks. They're gonna be coming into the area. Casey is here to take us through it.
Hi, I'm Casey Henniger with Green Light Networks, and we are a fiber optic internet service provider. So a little bit about us. We were founded in 2011 by our current CEO, Mark Murphy. He has over 30 years of experience in the telecommunications industry with Frontier,
Can you see it?
I can see it, huh?
Frontier, Time Warner Cable, Global Crossing, FiberTech, and XO Communications. And in 2011, he saw a need in Rochester for another option, a better option. So he founded Greenlight Networks, and we are a 100% fiber optic network. We serve mainly small business and residential customers. And in January, we were the only company offering 5 gig to the home, but quickly after we announced and launched our package, Google Fiber and Frontier announced theirs as well. And that's just one example of how having competition makes everybody better, and it's great for the consumer. And we currently serve customers in Binghamton, Buffalo, the Capital Region, and Rochester now. So some key announcements recently, we announced our new 5 gig product as well as a price decrease of our 2 gig product and our 1 gig product. So we still have our entry level product, which was, it's 500 megabits per second download for $50 a month. That's a flat 50, there's no contracts, taxes, hidden fees. We haven't done a price increase since we started in 2011, so we've only done speed increases and price decreases. And in 2022, we announced that our network now passes 100,000 homes, which was a pretty significant milestone for us, and I'm happy to say that we currently pass about 140, so our construction pace has accelerated significantly since we started in 2011. And since launching then, we have created 200 jobs. We have about 200 employees now in Binghamton, Buffalo, and Rochester and Albany. And we employ hundreds of local contractors throughout New York State to help us build our fiber optic network. And the last one is we have a new majority investor. So in 2018, Tom Galisano invested in Greenlight Networks. He's from the Rochester area. He invests a lot in the local businesses, so it was a really great partnership. But last year, we got a new investor, which is Oak Hill Capital, and they have pledged an additional $300 million investment. And the goal is to expand to 800,000 homes across New York State and possibly into other states. So in the Capital Region, we started our expansion in Clifton Park, so we are currently building our network there. And Malta is going to start in Q2, so we've already worked with the town. And we've actually started accepting some pre-orders, and we've done some events with the community there, and then Rotterdam should be starting in Q3 this year. So a partnership that we're really proud of is our joint venture with LaChase Construction. They have a great name for construction, they're very well known. In 2019, we wanted to go faster, so what that meant is we needed to be building in multiple municipalities, multiple markets, and multiple what we call Greenlight districts, which is how we organize our Greenlight construction. So we partnered with LaChase. Greenlight takes care of deciding where we want to go, getting the permits and easements from the municipality, local design, and working with the utility pole owners to get access to the utility poles, and then LaChase takes over and manages our subcontractors. And so far it's been working out really well. As you can see, we've hit that 100K milestone. So these are our current plans and prices. Like I mentioned, we start at that flat 50 for 500 megabits per second download. And something that makes Greenlight unique is our offering is synchronous. So that's 500 megabits per second upload and download, and that goes all the way up to our 5 gig product. So you might be aware of this, how Greenlight stacks up with the cable providers is our lowest speed option is actually faster than their lowest speed option and is significantly less money per month. And again, like the nice thing about Greenlight, like I mentioned, is no taxes, contracts, or hidden fees. So we don't have to do any weird fees that you might be seeing on your bill. It's that flat 50, and that's something that's really important for us. We've always had a same price for all philosophy, so the customers that were installed in 2011, we want them to be paying the same price as the customers that are installed this week. So we don't do that. You know, you can have this great deal for a few months, and the next thing you know, you get a surprise in the mail and your bill's gone up significantly. We're really proud to be an award-winning fiber to the home provider. We are recognized by Broadband Now as the #1 fastest internet service provider nationwide in New York State, and then fastest fiber provider as well. We are recognized as the best internet provider in Rochester by the readers of the Rochester Business Journal. We've won that for the 6th year in a row last year, so now we're currently hoping for year number 7. And we also won several awards that we're proud of from the Rochester Business Journal, including Most Innovative Workplace, Best Overall Company to Work For, and Best Overall Leadership. And then the final one I'll mention, in Rochester, they have a top 100 list of the fastest growing privately owned companies, and you have to hit certain metrics to even be considered. So We are proud to be on that list for the 4th consecutive year, and it's based solely on growth in revenue year over year. A really important thing at Greenlight is our customer satisfaction and the customer experience. That is something that starts with the CEO and goes right down to people that are hired this week. It's really important that we work with the community. We are keeping them aware of everything that we're doing in the community in terms of construction, and then once they're installed, making sure that they're happy with their service. We do events in the communities that we're building, including educational seminars, which is something we like to offer because once you have fiber, we don't offer a TV product, but you have the speed now that you can stream all of your content on multiple TVs. So we like to teach people how they can do that and walk them through how they can find the content they want on the different streaming platforms. So our Net Promoter Score, if you're not sure what that is, you have to have an independent company interview your customers. So they ask them a series of questions on a wide range of topics, and you can see if they're promoters, detractors, or passive. So we did this first in 2020, and we were really impressed and proud of our score. Anything in the positives is considered good. So we had a 77.4. So last year when we wanted to do this again, we were all a little nervous just because we didn't think there's any way that we could do any better. But luckily we have an 84.5 now, so that's something that really does speak to the customer experience that we really work hard on. And we're also really excited because we beat Wegmans, so we're all big Wegmans fans up there, so that was a really big milestone.
But Spectrum is 5?
Yeah, Spectrum and 5 and Frontier is 9, and then the average for the internet service is, yeah. So I'm not sure how Frontier and Spectrum do theirs, but.
I can identify with it 5.
Yeah. You might have been one of the people they interviewed. So I mentioned our employment growth. We started with 1 in 2011. It was just Mark and his dog Rudy. And I'm proud to say that I was one of the 3 in the East Rochester office, and it's amazing to see how far we've come to now having 200 employees and looking to add even more to that. So a big question that we get is, what is the difference between fiber versus DSL, cable? And the technology is it is transferred over a cable, a fiber cable, which transmits light. So we can literally go at the speed of light. One of the advantages is the network that we are building now. It is what we call future-proof. So we do up to 5 gig now, but with that network, we can do up to 10 gig, 40 gig, and beyond. So as the need comes for more speed, we won't have to do any additional construction. Our network will be able to work just as well in the future with what people need their bandwidth to do. Another fiber advantage is a lot of people are choosing where they want to live based on what kind of broadband that they can get. So fiber is the best. So if you have a fiber connection to your home, it actually can increase your home value by up to 3%. Something we're proud of too is we are an approved affordable connectivity program provider. So this program was born from the EBBP program that started during the pandemic. And so for anyone that qualifies, they get up to a $30 discount a month on their services, as well as a $100 discount on a device like a laptop or a tablet. The nice thing about this is we don't have kind of like a lower speed option for people on this program. With this program, they just get a discount on whichever package they prefer, so they get the exact same speed as everyone else. So this is a little information on how long it takes and what it takes to build a fiber optic network. So as you can see, it does take a lot of time. It's usually, honestly, probably about like a year to 18 months. So luckily, we've already started a lot of this pre-construction work in the Hudson Valley already. But we have to obtain an agreement in locations to house our network equipment. We have to design the network. We have to first, in a new region, we have to get agreements with the utility pole owners. So that's Orange, Rockland, and Frontier. So we already had one with Frontier based on a previous agreement in Rochester. So we are almost there with Orange Rockland. We sent back one last time for language clarification. So that's looking to be getting over the finish line pretty soon. So we'll start submitting our applications to get access to the utility poles, and then They have to go through the whole make-ready process, so surveying to see what needs to be done. So all the providers will have to make moves on the poles to make space for us. And then we actually go out and do the work. Once we have that package, then we have to obtain any required permits from the state, counties, and the municipalities. And then, once we have all that, we can actually schedule the contractors and start our construction. So typically for underground construction, if required, we only do that if the utilities are already fed underground. So once that's ready to go, it's about 60 to 180 days, depending on the size of the project. And then aerial construction, which is attaching fiber to the utility poles, takes about 30 to 60 days. So as much as it takes more time to actually get access to the utility poles, once we do have it, that construction goes pretty quickly.
So you're running your own fiber?
Yes.
You're not, I thought you, when we talked, you said you were riding Castle Crowns.
So we will lease from Crown Castle, which we already have an agreement with them to do, at different locations, and then we build off those locations. So we'll be starting.
So last mile is gonna be you, essentially?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So do you have an individual line going into the home, or is it at the pole, and that's all you need?
No, so we run it along the utility poles, and then anyone that places an order for service, we will run a line of fiber to their home, attach to the home, and then do the in-home installation.
Okay.
So a little bit more about what we're doing in the Hudson Valley in Goshen. So we are planning to invest over $57 million in the Hudson Valley as a whole, and about $2.3 million will be invested in the town of Goshen by the end of 2024. So the nice thing too is employment opportunities increase with fiber internet availability, real estate gains value like I mentioned before, and then also competition is good for the community. What we've seen in our other markets is where we have our network built, Spectrum or Frontier, they get really aggressive, I think, and they will lower their prices, they will raise their speed, so so whether or not they go with Greenlight, everybody's getting a better product. It forces all of the players to do better for the customer, so competition is always good. So this is where we're at in Hudson Valley. We are working with Middletown and Wallkill as well as Goshen on different agreements and the permit process, working with Orange Rock and Utilities. We are working with the Goshen Fire Department on an agreement to house that network equipment. So we have a member of our team talking with them. We actually already got one in Circleville, so that's gonna be how we build our network in Wallkill and Middletown. And then we've negotiated our IRU agreement with Crown Castle Fiber, so that's, like I mentioned, like you mentioned. And then we already have our pole attachment agreement with Frontier. So a lot of that pre-construction work I talked about has already started.
Can you further explain working with the Goshen Fire Department? Where are you gonna be housing there?
So we have our network equipment
Yeah.
that allows us to provide the actual service, so the fiber comes out of there. It's like a kind of our meet point with Crown Castle.
Which fire location, do you know?
Oh, I don't off the top of my head. I do know it's the Goshen Fire District though.
Okay.
So how much space will you be taking up in the firehouse?
It's a very just enough for a 19-inch rack.
Oh, so it's very small.
Yeah, very small. The reason we like to work with the firehouse is we've done this in every market that we're in actually is they're able to provide the 24/7 access just in case we have to get in there to do any maintenance, as well as they have backup power. So it's a really good relationship, and part of that agreement will include us providing complimentary service to the fire department. So we'll do a gig up and down at no charge.
So, are you through with your presentation? No? I'll let you finish.
I think so.
Is this include the village as well, as the town?
Yes. Yep, so this is just ways we can partner with the town of Goshen, any neighborhood association information, because we like to do those educational seminars and go attend their meetings, any upcoming road improvement projects, just in case we do have to go underground if the road's already kind of being torn up, that's where we can place our conduit in so we don't have to come back and dig up the road. Although I mentioned to the supervisor, the majority of Goshen, it's all fed by aerial poles, so very limited underground, which is great. If partnering for a press announcement when we're ready to, just to let the town of Goshen know that we're coming, and then execute a master agreement that I've sent to the town already, and then if there's any town-owned conduit available that we might use to feed certain buildings, but that's pretty rare. now I'm done. Any questions?
Yeah.
What, the only development that has underground is Heritage, right?
Yeah. So, how do we fit into your business plan? I mean, initially when you have this installed, how many users do you have, or will you have, or what's your projection?
I mean, we're hoping to get about 40% of the market.
40%?
Yeah. So we have to do our job to raise the awareness and provide a good service. It wouldn't be initially, so that's over the course of time, yeah.
200 gig, I'm number one, give me the thing now.
All right. So do you need a municipality agreement that we negotiate? Is that?
Yeah, so I've sent that.
You did, but you put the village of Goshen
Okay.
instead of the town of
All
Goshen.
right, we'll update that for you guys,
Well,
of
I guess
course.
we're gonna have to have an agreement with
Where
them.
they're from?
Yeah, so we would have to negotiate with the village as well. Mhm.
Everybody else?
Yeah, that's where I'm going.
Okay, yeah, yeah, George and I. We just negotiated the contract with Spectrum.
Spectrum.
And for how much will be charged and so on and so forth. So, do you have any usage fees that will come to the village, or?
No, because we don't charge those fees to the customer. So we have not had any type of agreement like that, because the way that those fees come about is by charging the customer. So we try to provide the best product at the lowest price, and that allows us to do that.
So are you in direct competition with Spectrum?
Absolutely.
Okay, so then I believe there was, because we read that contract back
Yeah.
and forth, we had,
Yeah.
you know, literally months back and forth with the contract.
Yeah.
And I believe there was something in there, and this is gonna be a legal question, but I'm paraphrasing it, that if in fact another entity comes in that's competitive to us, they would have to adhere to the same rules and regulations as Spectrum. Now, we're not the only game in town. Spectrum has contracts all over the state. So I guess you must know that answer then, right?
Yeah, I think part of it is we don't have a TV product, so we haven't had to have those different agreements.
TV, not internet.
No, but they still, they have the internet, they're an internet provider, and if.
Right, but I think our agreement, just,
Our-
we could check it, I believe it's just on
Exactly,
TV.
we need
Yeah.
to check it.
It typically is for those types of fees, because we have, this has come up with other towns.
I'm sure
Right.
it has.
And they have had to review it, especially ones where we do have that partnership for the pop sites. They didn't want to interfere with anything.
Yeah, but
Legal
somewhere,
Take a look at it.
yeah, somewhere along the line, there was something that if they were offered a different service, then that they would like to look at it, and possibly be competitive with that service, but I don't remember. We'd have to relook at this
Please.
agreement to make sure.
When you get a chance, Short, can you take a look at that agreement?
I'm trying to pull it up right now, but I'll.
Yeah, you can, yeah. Good,
All right, very good.
yeah?
I have a question.
Absolutely.
Who pays for the fiber from the pole to the house? Does Greenlight
So-
or the customer?
There is a $100 installation fee, but that's only for the inside part. So Greenlight, which it doesn't even come close to covering the cost of the install, but it is a one-time fee. But they do have the option to pay it in increments of $25, and we frequently offer free installation promotions.
So you bring the fiber to where, the edge of the house, or all the way into the house?
So it is all the way in. It just happens in different phases. So we'll bring it, it's called a drop. So we'll run a drop to the home that the customer doesn't need to be home for. But then once we do the inside installation, they have to schedule that and be home.
So to feed the entire rest of the house, in order to be fiber at every location, you have to run fiber internally, or you just have to do it over a wireless router?
Yep, just over a wireless router.
Couple of questions, Joe?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's information.
Two quick questions.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the underground. You do or you don't supply houses with underground?
We do.
Okay. And the second question, I think I understood that at the 500 rate, both upload and download are the same?
Yep. That's something fiber can do. That's something fiber can do that the cable provider
Yes, yeah.
cannot.
Okay.
They are not able to with their technology.
So the fiber gives you throughput, up or down. The cellular providers, well, the cable providers only have one way up or one way down.
Right. And we pay 3 times as much.
Yeah. So,
And they oversell their network, and you don't get what you're paying for.
so I'm limited with the technology type of thing, but you did say something early in your presentation about there's enough power coming into the home that you can hook up and then you can stream. So in other words, I can no longer have to use Spectrum for my cable TV.
That's right.
I can just stream it, right?
Yep.
So, again,
Anybody uses cable
limited,
TV anymore, yeah.
limited, but the streaming is a relatively easy process to disconnect the cable and
Yeah.
hook up the
So
stream.
in order to stream, you just need either a smart TV that already has the apps on there, or you can get a Roku or an Amazon Fire.
You got Roku?
Yeah.
So you would be a great person to attend one of our educational seminars, so we can walk you through that. But it is very easy, and we do have a partnership with My Bundled TV, which really helps. You do like a little survey of like what channels you're watching, you know, how many people are in the house, and they put together like all of the streaming platforms you might need, like Netflix, Hulu, whatever, based on what you're watching. So it really helps walk people through that.
Yeah, up until recently, Verizon or Frontier didn't offer fiber optics.
Only Fios does, and Verizon. Frontier has none.
None, right?
None. They
None,
just-
right. Okay, so that's, I think it's
Yeah.
gonna be a good service.
So I have
Yeah.
Spectrum right now,
Mhm.
and I pay $173. So if I were to go with your company, that means that your company also provides the cable, meaning,
The box.
I could stream everything through.
Yeah, so we don't provide the streaming, but you're able to do that over the fiber internet. So I would say, like, 'cause I have like Netflix, and I have almost all of them, but so I guess unfortunately that's how we get our content, is just through the streaming. But Greenlight does not offer the streaming content, just to clarify, yeah.
$50 for 500 meg.
Right.
One of the developments is 75 houses, it's all underground. How do you make a decision to go to that market, or that set? Do you have to have a minimum number of people that agree to take it?
So when we first started, we did have to have a certain threshold of people that placed orders, but now with the initial investment from Tom D'Alessano and Oak Hill, we're able to plan a little further in advance, and we don't require that. We just have to make sure that we, as a marketing team, as a company, we do get a certain threshold, but we don't require it before starting construction. Yeah. But I think, well, when we looked at the Hudson Valley and Goshen, there was a few things. Number one, there wasn't a fiber provider, so that's what made it appealing, as well as there's great density, and then the majority of it is fed by the utility poles, which make it very
So
attractive.
do you have restriction on Crown Castle's customers, or how does that work?
So they don't do residential service. So we primarily do residential service and then some small business. So we aren't looking to get into their space, which is the enterprise space.
Okay.
They do a very great job, and they have the support for that type of
But if
service.
you own an enterprise business, they'll run into your house.
Apparently, you told me that in our meeting. That was the first I'd heard of that.
Is that a question?
Statement.
There you go.
So Heritage is a good example because there's 75 homes out there and there's a pretty good density there.
Yep.
Now, it's all underground utilities.
Correct.
So you're not gonna rip up 75 parts of the street all around that.
No.
subdivision.
Well-
You're gonna feed
You're
it,
gonna run through the existing.
feed it through the existing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we can, if they have their own conduit that's owned by Heritage, then that would be ideal, to be honest. We would like to do it that way, or we'll do a directional drill that goes 36 inches below the surface.
I see.
I believe they ran the conduit there. Utility that run the conduit.
I was gonna say, if it's a conduit owned by another utility, they do not let us go in there, that we
No,
can't
I
go in
believe
there,
it
but
was put in by the developer.
that would be great.
Yeah.
So let me get this, because a neophyte and all this kind of stuff, it's for your internet, your TV, it's not cell phone at all.
No phone, yeah, no
I mean,
TV
the
through
only
Greenlight.
One reason why I say that is because Spectrum bundles everything
Mhm.
and all that kind of stuff to try to bring everyone, hold this down. Okay.
And you have to have a smart TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Mine's quite dumb, but I can get smart.
You just need a Roku, and then your TV will be as smart as everyone else's.
But then you need a TV that has a USB port for a Roku.
That's true.
We got two right here.
Was that?
I know you guys are ready here.
Sure, we'll come down here and watch.
So we'll do the demonstration right here.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
are.
Okay.
All right, any other questions from audience or residents or George?
You said you do not do phone,
Right.
but in the future, do you have the capacity to do phone?
So you can do like a VoIP service over fiber internet, but we don't have any plans to do a phone product. I think it's sort of phasing out. So,
Everybody has this.
The cell phone.
yeah.
Or had
They
that.
had that. Don't walk out, George.
That's cracked already. All right, Casey, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for
Appreciate
having
it.
me.
So,
Yeah, good presentation.
We'll be in touch.
So then the contract or whatever it is.
we're gonna go through the contract, yep, and then we'll bring it up for a board meeting. Yep.
I still have 2 landlines. For our business. Carolyn has it for the travel.
Yeah.
I had 2. We
Okay.
had 3, I just disconnected.
All right, moving on. Item number 6, approve the resignation of part-time police officer Michael Ronaldo effective February 28, 2023. We have a letter to Chief Post. I'm writing the letter to inform you that I wish to resign my position as police officer with the town of Goshen PD effective February 28, 2023 at 800 hours. While it was a pleasure working with the town of Goshen Police Department, I have decided to leave duty due to my inability to provide reliable availability on a constant basis as a result of my outside full-time employment. Of course, I will continue to perform my duties with the same level of quality and effort until my final day at the town of Goshen Police Department. Sincerely, Officer Mike Ronaldo.
Accept his resignation.
Yep.
Make a motion to accept his resignation.
Second.
And a letter thanking him for his service.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approve and authorize Chief Post to sign contract with the county bonds for the Stop TWI program.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now getting down to the next one. Item number 7, approve and authorize Chief Post to sign contract with, no, did that already. Review and approve the purchase of a camera system to the police department to comply with the bail reform and discovery law. So we have a code here for what it's gonna take to upfit the police department and the outside, around the police department. Under the new bail reform laws, we have to record anybody brought into the police department or coming in and out of the police department and have to turn it over to the district attorney within a 14-day period, mandatory, by New York State. Rory, if you want to give a little detail on that, I know you.
Sure. Just a little clarification on that. I mean, that's an interpretation that a lot of departments have used in the DA's office as well. I look at it kind of in 2 parts of why the system would be important. First off, the bail reform, the discovery laws put a burden on the district attorney's office to, essentially, there's a presumption that if they have information or they can get information that it can be turned over. It's an open discovery law. Whereas in the past, you would have to ask for certain discovery, with the exception of limited things. So a lot of departments in the county now have interior surveillance as well as exterior surveillance. And the idea is that you're going to capture everything from the arrival at the PD to the holding, to any test administered, and in the event that some incident happens, that's covered as well. This is not a body cam type surveillance, which some departments use that have bigger budgets, maybe. So, for instance, the Village of Goshen has, I think, 1 external cam and then a cam on the holding spot. It's obviously a smaller or very uniquely constructed place, so the amount of cameras isn't as maybe necessary compared to other PDs, including the town. So it's it's protection of the officer's safety. Certainly, if anything happens, it will be recorded. And I guess on the reverse, it's protection of the defendant who's presumed innocent still at that point. The liability end of things, protecting lawsuits, it's not uncommon for folks to claim while in custody that certain things occurred, whether they're physical in nature or they're related to paraphernalia or evidence or anything like that. So I look at it, having been a defense attorney in the past of how you can use that wedge, or civil lawsuits and the cost, the burden on the town. It's not empirical, but it wouldn't take many lawsuits, even if we were successful in defending them, to match the cost of what's on the table right now. So then there's part two of it, which goes into the discovery reforms and the burden that's placed upon PDs to turn over information. There's a sliding scale depending on certain types of information, but it is a quick turnaround from arrest to providing that documentation to the DA, who then has to turn it over to the defense counsel. So you're talking, a couple weeks, sometimes it's 30 days. If it's voluminous, you're talking paper, almost like the FOIL rules, the bigger the. So the type of system that's being advocated for, which is utilized in other PDs, is, I think there's members on this dais after just hearing about their inability to use Roku would still be able to use this system. It's that straightforward and point and click type of thing where if you use other systems, it becomes burdensome upon PDs. And obviously the way our PD's set up, I don't think we need to put any more burden on that type of the way our staff is structured. So it's something that it becomes kind of a turnkey operation. And I know, Joe, you talked about little things in it, like, facial identification to
Well, it
search
allows,
the system, right?
the police officer doesn't have to scour through hours
Yeah.
and hours of video. You could lay a picture of the person you're looking for into the system, and it'll bring up every clip on the thing and records them. So
Yeah.
literally, it's 10 seconds to look at that particular person during the entire time they've ever been in the town of Goshen.
And I, some of my talking tonight is infused with having done criminal defense work, but if you leave doors open, like the ability to actually have the cameras and not have them, to me that's a wedge that people can drive a Mack truck through. So it is an unfunded mandate essentially from the state. They didn't say you have to have. They didn't directly say you have to have cameras, right?
Right.
But if you extrapolate out the way things are playing out, and you're interpreting the way the law is bending, I would say get ahead of the curve, and I think that the way the product is designed, it's supported by all ends. I mean,
Think about what happened to us 2 months ago. We lost 3 catalytic converters because we had no cameras outside. They cut them right outside of the dial buses. One dial bus is insured, the other 2 are not insured, so we're eating the burden of that $6,000 to replace them.
So I can't speak to anything more with the cost, but again, speaking to having been involved in civil litigation with PDs, I know the burden it places upon the attorneys. So
Is this something that we could get with Scopus or some of the others, and maybe get some money?
It's unfunded. It's unfunded by the state, mandated. Otherwise, they'd be looking at every PD. Be looking to get that funded.
Oh, sure. So do we have any idea of the cost?
$29,880.
I'm sorry, what was it?
$29,800.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
$26,889. That covers inside the police department, outside the police department, the entire parking lot, including the DPW parking lot.
Right.
Yes? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Now, is that the one that uploads everything? Because I'm not sure if we can do that, if you just have someone in the police department uploading facial recognition.
No, it doesn't upload, it stays on the server. What I'm saying is when you're going to, when the district attorney calls up and said, I need all film on this day of Rory Brady.
Right.
We get a picture of Rory Brady.
That'd be me.
What? Well, you're an easy name. You get a picture of Rory, and they put it into the computer, so wherever in that recording for that day, his face appeared on any camera, you would automatically bring it up.
Right.
So instead of having a police officer spend 4 hours scouring through 8 hours that he spent at the police department.
It also, I mean, it records when you arrive, right? Let's say the PD arrives at 10 p.m. and then, by the time the guy's booked and he's brought over to say OCJ, it's 11, right?
Right. I just
and all you do is pull the cameras from all that. That's turned over. So now, as a defense attorney, I get cameras. I'll have an hour of stuff that there's nothing on it, but it's turned over. So now it's ruled out that something happened there.
Yeah. No, I don't have a problem with, but my question really is it legal to put all this personal information on someone that is not convicted of anything or done anything?
Yeah, it's part of discovery.
Is that?
Yeah, you have a duty to turn over anything that could be exculpatory or helpful to a defendant, that's called Brady material,
I
but
just
it's-
wanna make sure we
yeah.
don't violate anybody's personal
No,
rights
it's not
by,
a,
by jumping the gun and getting facial recognition
if
in
you
his
make the
whole
arrest,
history.
you know, it's like posting a booking photo at the
Okay.
jail, like that, the arrest is made, and I don't know every detail of that,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
certainly,
yeah.
it's not something that,
Okay.
it's been going on for a while,
Okay.
certainly.
The
So-
second question is there any way that we can just, this can be uploaded to the DA automatically, so we don't have to go and search anything and do anything? I mean, can we?
I don't think, the DA is not gonna want all this storage from every PD around here.
I think my understanding is it's turned over on a disk, it's downloaded right off the thing, it's turned over on a disk, and then the DA takes that, puts it into some sort of server, and they distribute it to, the defense attorney gets it via a link that they open up.
It's a link.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
essentially a
probably not
Dropbox
disk,
type
right?
thing.
'Cause that's like.
Yeah, that's probably emailed.
Yeah.
It's probably emailed.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's emailed to you, and then
Okay.
you open the link.
Yeah, that.
But I don't know the exact
information. Yeah.
mechanics on the other end, so.
Okay, good.
So what we're approving tonight is a 26,000.
26,889.52
Okay.
purchase, yes.
Yep,
Do I have a motion to, any other discussion?
so moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You got that second, Mary?
Yeah, go on, Rick.
Yeah.
Okay,
Did you
I-
say something?
what's that?
Did Rick second that?
Yes.
There's too many seconds here. Everybody's going ahead of me. Item number 10, schedule a public hearing for introductory law number 1 of 2023, elected official term limits. Do we need to explain? We went through this
No,
already?
we went through it, but we didn't set the public
Yeah.
hearing for it.
That's it, it was just
Yep.
it was the last item on the agenda, and we, you know, everybody was, so it's
Do you
just
wanna
gotta be.
schedule it for the next meeting?
Yes, please.
Yep.
So
I make a motion that we schedule a public hearing for, what date is that, Mary?
Would be-
Do you have a calendar?
The next
Or-
It would be
2 weeks from today.
13th?
Maybe the sixth,
the 13th.
no, the 13th.
April
13th of
13th.
April at 7 PM or
No, I showed that as, yeah, April 13th at 7 o'clock.
at 7 or thereafter, at any time thereafter. Is that the right motion? You good with that motion?
Yep.
I actually didn't hear.
At
it.
13, at 7 PM or any
Yep.
time thereafter.
Second?
April 13th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright. There is no number 11 on there, but we omitted it, and we have quite a few residents here from the area, so I had received two calls? Two requests. Two requests from Brookside residents looking at the possibility of extending the water from Heritage to Brookside. We asked Bonnie, who lives up there, works for us, Bonnie lives up there and works for us, we asked her to send letters out to the people on Brookside. I'm not sure who's here from Brookside tonight, but we are looking to entertain the extension of that water with a couple of conditions, which we will go over. Does anybody want to talk about it? Anybody have questions about it, concerns about it?
One of the concerns I have, Jim Mulroy lived at 6 Brookside. One is, we waited years to have the road paved, so now we're gonna rip the road up again, I guess, to run this pipe through there.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said,
I would give
Can
the
we- yeah, we can get
microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You want-
yeah.
I'll just talk loud.
No, we need to record it.
You're being recorded though.
For the minutes.
I don't know, want to do that.
We got you on tape now.
Jim Mulroy, 6 Brookside Drive.
There you go.
Just a couple of questions. First off, do we have the option to opt out?
You don't have to opt in.
Okay, what is
It's
the...
not mandatory.
Okay, what would be the cost if we opted in?
We'd have to determine what the cost of the road is gonna be, and then you would pay water fees like everybody else in the water and sewer districts.
And I understand the water bills are very high in that area.
I don't know what you consider high versus having no water.
Versus no bill. I have water.
Then you're gonna opt out. But there are certain people up there that don't have water. So I think that's why they're requesting it.
Okay, are we gonna poll the people on that street? Because I know there's a few that I've spoken to who have no interest in it.
but I don't think we're making this mandatory.
Okay, it just sounds like a lot of money invested, you're ripping up the road and putting the pipes in, and you might get 3 or 4 people out of 20.
Okay, well, I mean, there is that possibility, yeah.
That's not an issue, the town will do that anyway, if there's 2 or 3 people?
Well, I'm not saying we're not saying we're doing anything. We're talking about investigating the possibility of, we have a resident up there that takes about 17 minutes to wash her hair every day. That's an issue.
The houses at the top of the hill, they don't have good recovery in their wells. I don't know about the bottom. You live near the bottom?
Yes.
Yes.
See, that's why you probably would opt out.
Yeah, so the way I think it works, Rory, if you can.
Yeah, I don't know if you're
Just-
done, so.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, but just to answer his
Nice to
question.
hear more how it works. and
Just to ask him, yeah.
Depending on.
I think how it
How we
works
react.
is that we would have to create a water district.
Yeah.
You can't do 1 and 2, you either have a district or you don't. I think that's gonna be the
Well, that's what we have to
situation.
look at, correct.
And they have to either agree, because they'll be tapping into, we can't have individual houses tapping in. It's either a district or it isn't, so.
An extension
I
of the
think-
existing district.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, so. Next question.
Ed Connor, 19 Brookside Drive. Most of the people at the top of the hill, which are the 3 of us right here,
Yeah.
have holding tanks already. My wife and I had the well redug to 900 feet. We have a 250-gallon holding tank. The whole thing costs $25,000 we've got invested. There's no way you're gonna put 1 or 2 or 3 houses on the street and not make everybody go into it. And we've already spent all this money, and I'd like to know where the original source of the water is coming from, because the village water is not the greatest water in the world. And
It's not coming from the village.
I wouldn't even drink it, so.
It's not coming from the village.
Well, I personally, and I think my wife feels, we like what we have, and like the young man down here at the end of the line here said, we just got a brand new road, and now you want to dig it all up. It's crazy.
I'm not saying we're doing anything. I said I received a letter from a resident, so we put the request out there. That's what we're here for.
Joe Soreski, 18 Brookside Drive. First of all, I'm assuming this was not on the agenda tonight, is that correct?
It was an omission, but a letter went out to everybody. That's why you're all here. So we added it to the agenda.
Well, no, I'm here because a neighbor left something in my mailbox.
That's my point, yes.
Okay, so you mentioned that there's going to be a couple stipulations.
It's all talk right now, so.
Okay, so there's nothing to talk about for that.
Correct.
Okay.
We're not even sure we're moving forward with. We have 1 or 2 people that contacted the board.
Okay,
We asked Bonnie, who lives up there, she said she would send a letter out to everybody that it was gonna be a topic of discussion tonight. We forgot to put it on the agenda. When I saw everybody here, we made a decision to add it at number 11, that's all.
okay. Well, I have nothing to discuss about that. I do have something else to discuss unrelated to that. Is this the proper time to talk about that, or is that
No,
another?
at the end of the meeting, you'll get
Okay.
privilege of the floor. Anybody else?
Well, I guess I'm Ed Scannell. I'm probably the newest one on the street, 3 years. And I'm across the street, next to Joe, across the street from Ed. And again, we've got a lot of thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars in the basement.
Yeah.
We're
You know,
aware
my
of it.
understanding of it,
Yeah.
this is, I'm a little confused in that I'm hearing heritage, and the notification had to do with the Hamiltonian district. Is that one and the same?
One and the same.
One and the
It is
same.
one and the same,
Yeah.
okay. And if you go to the Hamiltonian site, it talks about the source of water being well-based as well anyway. Is that proper, is that true?
Every one of our water districts is well-based.
Well-based, okay.
Nobody's attached to the village.
Okay, so, I mean, bottom line is we'd be
Drinking the same water.
drinking the same water and getting a different level of care applied to it, however it might be.
Or just for some people, the need to get the water. They haven't made the investment, I guess, that's what it is.
That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
Well, Joe.
I mean, we don't have the holding tanks that some of my neighbors do, and knock on wood, haven't had any issues at the top of the street. But I guess I'd be curious to know, okay, what the next steps would be, because there does sound like there's some interest, but not a ton of interest. And is there is the next steps some sort of a survey or a cost thing or whatever it might be? So.
Well, you know what it is, Joe. At the top of that hill, the 900-foot recovery is very, very slow. At the bottom of the hill, it's much better. So it's probably a half dozen houses at the top. I think we can look at the bill. I just asked Mary what the water bill is from Heritage if we put the water in there. And she doesn't remember right now without pieces of paper in front of her. But let's say it's $65 a month or whatever it might be. I don't know.
It's close, I live in Heritage and it's close to $400 every quarter.
The
That's for
website
sewer,
specifically says
No, that's sewer.
$311.
If we could just let.
There's a $311 quarterly minimum
For water
charge.
and sewer.
No, he's got water. 300 and some odd dollars a year.
No, he has water and sewer.
Water and sewer. Okay.
Sorry.
So essentially, since a district has to be created, everybody would have to opt into it. If everybody doesn't opt into it, we wouldn't be able to move forward. So it would become a moot point. It would be unfortunate for the person or two people that wrote the request to the town, but my answer back to them would be, at this time, the best you can do is try to fix your well at the top of the hill, and maybe reach out to some of your neighbors, and they can assist you in what they've installed. To me, that's what it seems like. I'm not sure how many houses are on Brookside. Was it 10 or 12?
No, there's like 20 of us.
20, okay, so there's 5 people here that are against it, I would imagine, correct?
I know 3 or 4 that I
No.
know that aren't here, so
No
we're
what?
probably
No.
10.
No what?
No, there needs to be a public hearing before we even talk. This is all talk right now. There's no public hearing right now.
Okay, so I'm not sure what your point is.
Well, you just said there's 5 people against it. I didn't say I was against it. I just said there's no public hearing.
Okay, well, I apologize to you, there's
That's
4
all right.
people that are against it.
Joe,
So we would poll, yes, we would poll all the neighbors there officially from the town, and then have a public hearing.
just a point of information. We went through all of this when Heritage was being planned, and they wouldn't let us connect. So that's why one of the reasons everybody went out and got holding tanks and dug the well deeper.
So when you were going through it, when it was Heritage, it wasn't a town facility yet, it was the developer's facility.
Well, it was before the planning board. The planning board didn't want to.
Again, wasn't deeded and dedicated to the town yet. We had no jurisdiction to give you access to that water and sewer until it got turned over to us, and it was after the fact. Everybody was in there after the fact. So it couldn't be done at the planning process.
That's when it was discussed.
But it couldn't be done at the planning process, because then the developer would be paying for you to connect to a water and sewer system that he was putting in that hadn't been deeded to the town yet.
So there's not going to be any cost to the homeowner to do this?
Of course there is.
Would a ballpark be in the thousands of dollars, right, to hook up?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I really don't know what the cost would be.
So just to reiterate next steps then, polling and.
We will send a letter out to every resident on Brookside saying it has been brought to our attention that some of the residents have requested the possibility of connecting to the water district at Hamiltonian Park.
I think the other thing we need to do, Joe, is say, and here's what the average quarterly water fee is, and here's what the cost will be to put the line in.
Right,
Oh,
So
sure.
everybody understands what.
Know
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
And-
then they
But
know
did
what
I
they're
hear
voting on.
correctly that it's gonna require a unanimous, or
Well,
at least
the way the water and sewer district works is you don't get to opt in. If 20 people come in here and 19 say yes, unfortunately the 20th person is gonna be a yes, even if he's a no. He or she is a no.
and conversely,
The opposite way. If 15 out of the 20 say no, majority rules. Anything else? Good?
Thank you very much.
Discuss and approve a motion to authorize the supervisor to pay accounts payable check run for the March 23rd, 2023 in the amount of $268,397.33. Can I have that motion? So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Discuss and approve the budget transfer submitted by Budget Officer dated March 17, 2023.
Seems pretty benign.
Yep.
Yeah, I so moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Discuss and approve a request by the budget officer to incur a fee for bounce checks. Apparently, due to times, we're getting some bounce check fees, and whether we incur a cost or not, we don't incur a cost. She's requesting that we add a fee, but
Can we do that legally, Rory?
I wanted to speak to Christine a little bit more on it.
Okay.
She doesn't mention the fee either.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm not.
so look, how about we table it? So Christine's out sick, she's got COVID.
I
Oh.
actually thought she was gonna be here tonight, so my apologies.
So we'll table it and add it to the next meeting? Okay, no problem. Okay, information, the town received a check for $100,000 from the Arden Local Development Corporation as part of its dissolution process. The funds have been deposited into the A townwide fund. So the Arden Local Development Corporation was put together in order to take Arden Hill Hospital all the way through the process of getting to where it is today, and they've, at this point, they've deeded that property to BOCES, and the corporate docs stated that any money left in the fund had to go to the town in which the Arden Hill was in. It's the town of Goshen. I received a call from the budget officer at Arden Hill Hospital, Garnett. And he told me that we'd be receiving a check for $100,000. We received it, and Christine had put it into the townwide general fund.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, good.
Information, Christine Cavallari conducted an accounts payable audit for March 17, 2023. It's attached.
Good.
All right. At this point, I will open up the floor to any residents that would like to speak on where is the 25-mile-an-hour speed sign? I read minds.
And where are we at the developer and the grandstand?
Okay, so let Rory take on the speed limit since he's.
So, resolutions are drafted, the required documents that go to the New York State DOT are drafted. They will be on the agenda for the next meeting to be voted on. At that point, they go up to New York State, then they send it over to Orange County. Orange County does this, they go to Orange County, conducts a study, assuming that they agree that the speed limit should be changed. The exact time frame of that, I can't give you, because they wouldn't give it to me. But for the part of what's left on our end, we are one meeting away from it being, assuming that we get adopted, I don't think there's gonna be an issue.
Grandstand, we're waiting for final disposition from the Board of Health. I understand that all the equipment has been ordered. They're shorthanded on engineers, so if you can call yourself if you don't, if you're as frustrated as I am, because I call multiple times on a monthly basis, but it's at the Board of Health. As soon as it gets approved, my understanding that the sand system is, has been ordered, it's there, and the building is ready to go. So I will seek out a answer for the next meeting on that for you. Right? Anybody else? Any other?
So, I'm here, sorry, I don't you.
State your name for the.
I got a loud voice, but.
No, state your name for the record, please.
So I'm here, my name is Lisa, I'm here on behalf of what I henceforth will call Jane Doe, who in the relevance to this is that in February of 2022, Jane Doe was assaulted in Goshen Volunteer Ambulance Corps. And as we know, by state and federal law, GOVAC must provide its staff with required training such as sexual harassment, such as HIPAA. Those trainings are not happening still to date. What are we, well, a year post that, and those trainings are still not happening. So why is that relevant here today? Is that Goshen, this board, in believing they were doing the right thing, has funded in 2023 $60,000 to GOVAC, who is outside of regulatory compliance. Somebody was seriously hurt and no action was taken and continues to not be taken to ensure this does not happen. The conditions of that building are absolutely deplorable, and I implore these board members to please go visit it. It is absolutely horrendous. I know this isn't related to this board, but I have done some digging in the village, and it's very, very interesting to me that the property files for 7 New Street don't seem to exist. I did a FOIL request. They can't even obtain any records indicating 7 New Street ever existed other than the knowledge that it did once exist. It's very, very troubling.
What is 7 New Street?
That was
the address.
That was the address of the former Dykeman Firehouse building. I'm interested to know whether or not that building was condemned, and if that's why it was abandoned. The conditions are absolutely horrifying within that building. And you know, I just learned recently that BOCES students were there doing training in a building in the condition that it's in, with staff that are not trained with basic New York State regulatory required training. You know, there's a lot of files also that are even missing, even in the 15 New Street, which is the current GOVAC building. On the website, it's listed as 7 New Street. I find it hard to imagine that we still can't reconcile. Again, this is a village issue, but it still can't be reconciled what the legal address of GOVAC is, considering that the building was purchased for $30,000 in April of 2022, and there still seems to be confusion. I personally don't know how to reconcile that. There's no closing documents from the closing of that. The building was sold for $30,000 because Mr. Lyons stated that it required $490,000 in repairs from new gen construction. That documentation is not within the file. There's no certificate of occupancy, and actually there was a question raised in 2000, hold on, I'll find it. In January of 2022, the question was asked by, it looks like the building, oh no, it was the title agency, whether or not there was even a CO for the building. And according to the file, they said it predated the building inspector records. Literally, there is no records that exist of 7 New Street, and I find that really hard to believe that there was no building records when that firehouse was in existence and when that building was abandoned, or whatever happened that led the fire department to find a new home. Also, a resolution that was passed that GOVAC has obtained repair estimates from a contractor in an amount of $490,000, and again, to do repairs on a building that you know, it's literally deplorable. The other question that I'd like to raise, since there is a sitting board member who is the president of GOVAC, it states that if GOVAC was to ever go under, or the building had to be sold for any reason, that the village would be entitled to half of the proceeds of that sale, less any money that was put into the building. And as I understand from watching previous board meetings, Mr. Lyons was asking this town to consider donating significant funds to make repairs to that building. So my question is, in the event that GOVAC does have to sell or goes under for any reason, where do all those assets go of GOVAC? Do they get turned over to the state? Does it get divvied up amongst board members? legally, where does that money, those assets go?
I'm not sure what you mean by divvied up amongst board members.
Well,
Can you
I'm
clarify that just for the record?
Yeah, no, I'm genuinely interested in knowing if GOVAC goes under, so say this town was to turn over funds to GOVAC to make repairs to the building. According to the contract with the village, the proceeds would be 50% of whatever the building sold for would go to the village, 50% would go to GOVAC. But GOVAC, if it dissolves.
You're asking a hypothetical question, and I don't feel the need to answer a hypothetical question. We haven't given GOVAC any money other than the money that we give them on.
No, I know that. Yeah, and I'm not accusing of that. It's a genuine concern that if that was to come about, if that was to come to pass, again, if it was village money, town money funding the repairs in the building, it would be 50% turned over to the village, less any money that went into repairs. So if, say, $400,000 in repair, the building sells for $500,000, then they're not having to divvy up, or GOVAC wouldn't have to divvy up very much, to the village. And where does that go in the event that a non-for-profit organization goes under it's just, like I said, I'm not saying that happened, I'm not saying it's going to happen, it's just a general question of how the process would work.
Yeah, and I think that, with all due respect, I think that's a question for a GOVAC board meeting, not for us at the town board meeting. And George is not going to answer anything relative to GOVAC at the town board level.
And I wouldn't expect him to. I'm bringing it to this board's attention because I did watch previous meetings and heard discussions about requests for this town to consider significant funding to GOVAC. And I personally did try to find records for the repairs that were allegedly going to be made, and this, it literally is listed, right, and this is in the village, but there is no documentation that I could find just as a member of the public in general interest of what repairs are being made that total $490,000. Yes, it's a big building, I could see it, but it doesn't, I can't find it in any public records. I can't find this actual sale of GOVAC. Nothing seems to be existing. But to my greater end in this is that it is deeply concerning for this board to be funding with taxpayer money a private 501c4 organization that is literally not even in compliance with New York State regulation.
Okay.
And I do implore the board, to deep dive into an investigation into what I am saying, and if it is founded to be true, to take appropriate action to, make sure that the fiduciary responsibility to the public is being served.
Lisa, what's your last name?
My last name is King.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Bill? Anybody else? Yes.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Wendy Morel. I live in Heritage, part of the board as well.
Give her the microphone again.
Yeah.
Just keep it out there and pass it along. It's only so it's recorded in the minutes, that's all.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be brief.
First of all, Joe, thank you so much for plowing our streets this past winter.
I got out there myself.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. But I have two questions. The first one is, when are we going to have a water meeting? I think most of the homeowners, we would like to participate in those kind of meetings.
So, we don't have a definitive date yet. We're going through as you may or may not be aware, we hired Delaware Engineering to do a comprehensive review of the water and sewer, and they gave us a recommendation to combine everything into one district for the betterment of all districts from a grant perspective, because we need quite a bit of money to upgrade, not your district, because you're not your water system, because yours is brand new. But I believe, what did Delaware say? We're talking about?
I think we're looking at August.
August. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the other question is, we are actually pretty much near neighbors, and that gate was closed for about, since the beginning, and now it seems to be open all the time. Is that going to continue to be opened?
The gate was opened for plowing purposes. It will be closed back up.
Okay.
I do have a letter from the chief of police and the fire district requesting that we take up a discussion on eliminating that gate completely, but we haven't done that yet.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But it obviously, we go out to the public, there'll be a public hearing on it. If it's a safety measure and, the chief will come up and talk about it, the fire department will come up and talk about what's going on. For the purposes of plowing, it adds like 15 minutes to the plow driver to go up there, turn in, out, back, out. So we just made a decision at the board level to leave it open, and now I'll have Broderick Knoll close it this week.
Yeah, I think the concern for us is basically that since it's gonna be open, that we're gonna have more traffic coming into the complex, and of course, it's gonna be open to pretty much everyone, so that's, it's a safety concern for us.
This was discussed years ago, okay? And it was through traffic was the issue, and the people in Brookside, in deference to them and their safety, we said, close it. And the fire department, the police department have keys to it. So if we're gonna bring it open again, we need to bring it open with everybody.
Oh, yeah, it'll be a discussion on the board.
Great.
I mean, if you look at Orange County planning and planning overall, good planning allows for throughput roads. Yes, there's gonna be a little bit more traffic. I would say there's probably gonna be more traffic for the people that live on Brookside than there is for the people that live on Heritage. Since you live at the top of the hill, you'll incur a lot of that traffic, so I'll include you in that Brookside traffic, even though you live in Heritage. So yeah, it's an understanding. We know what the positives and the genuine negatives are, and we have to weigh that with a lot of different decisions. So we will, and you'll have input if that's what we decide.
Great, thank you so much.
Joseph Soreski, 18 Brookside Drive. First of all, I understand this afternoon I found this out, and I do a fair amount of traveling for whatever reason, personal business reasons, that a letter was sent out to all the residents in Brookside back in November, December. Is that true, or?
I'm not aware of the letter.
Yes,
Okay.
we sent out a letter saying we're opening the gate.
Oh, opening
for
the gate.
winter.
Was that sent return receipt request or just in the
No,
mail?
just mail.
Okay. I never received that letter, just so you know. That's number one. Number two, I'm a 30-year resident of Brookside. I believe Bob, not to speak for Bob, Bob has been about the same time as myself. And Ed and his wife, I've been there about the same amount of time. Yes. And so a few years ago, the former supervisor just mentioned that there was an agreement made, and it would only be open for emergencies. And now this happens, and obviously it's very disappointing and upsetting to me to hear this. I understand you have to have a public hearing. You want to go back to talking about it. That's fine, but I just don't really like the way it was handled. And on a side note, one of the reasons why it was done back in the day was that Brookside will become a speedway. It's straight up the hill there. They'll be doing 50, 60 miles an hour all day long. So that's all I really have to say. I'm just upset, and I will be at the meetings as long as I'm notified that there's a meeting.
Sure, absolutely. If you didn't get the letter, apologize for that. And as I said, Mr. Shresky, this is not guaranteed. We'll weigh the options. You'll be able to hear what the police and the fire department have to say relative to this. We may say there's a more need for that gate to be open because of your concerns than there is for public safety on, fire and police. So we'll evaluate it, we'll weigh it, and the public will weigh in on it. We don't live there, any of us live there, so we don't know what you're going through, but we will give everybody the opportunity to weigh in on it.
Just to add one thing, Mr. Bloomfield brought up the point of
Can you identify yourself?
Ed Scannell from 16 Brookside, sorry, brought up the point that keys were available to fire and police from an emergency perspective. An emergency can happen at any time. A snowstorm happens occasionally and certainly is somewhat predictable. Was there any thought ever given to having that be an option for the plowing as opposed to just keeping it open all the time? It would seem to me that if keys are good for an emergency that could happen at any time, to give the key to the plow guy to pop out for 2 seconds to unlock it and open it and shut it back up would be an agreeable solution.
I mean, if you look at some of the decisions that, you know, they have to deal with when they're plowing, you know, the worst thing in the world for a plow driver to do is to get out of that truck when it's snowing. They should never leave that truck. There's a safety issue with it. And then making that maneuver to turn around is where the problem becomes. It takes them, we have 50, almost 57 miles of road that we have to plow during the storm, multiple times. So we take care of Brookside, we leave Brookside, you don't see it for 3 or 4 hours if we have a good snowstorm, and you happen to be going out of your house, you know, these guys why aren't they back here?
I think they do a magnificent job. I'm not.
And what I'm trying to make a point is, as simple as it sounds, making that maneuver and adding 5 minutes to, you know, a run or 10 minutes to a run, this is not the only location we have to do this. There are plenty of other developments that tee up that have to do the same thing. We're trying to figure out a way to better serve the public, and opening the gate may or may not better serve the public. We don't have any of the information on that yet.
Well, again, with storms being the way they are and the information that's available, because, I mean, one of us could have a key and go down and open it up when we know there's a storm coming the next day.
Yeah,
I mean, we
I'm
could
sure.
even do something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. There were probably things that we could have thought out a little bit better than just opening it up and say, leave it open and then we'll close it.
Okay. So it sounds like we'll get an opportunity to have that discussion.
Yeah, and listen, and maybe next year, if the residents decide they don't want the gate open, maybe the town can invest in an automated gate, so that only the highway department has the clicker or the police department have the clicker. Something to that effect. We can look at all options.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just to add to this, Joe Soreski, 18 Brookside Drive. Ed is my next door neighbor. I respectfully disagree with you.
Okay, too.
Well, we'll talk about that later. And I say it like it is. I'm not digging my heels in when I tell you this, but this was all agreed upon years ago. Mr. Bloomfield's nodding his head, so he knows. And yeah, it's a little challenging, but there is, if you go down the end of the street, there is a turnaround to some degree. And it takes about 2 or 3 minutes.
For a car.
You're right, okay? I'm not arguing, but we made an agreement. We made this agreement. And so I'll be here for the public hearing.
I just want to make a quick clarification because I was sitting here feeling bad about it. I just want to make very, very clear when I mentioned in the event that GOVAC went under, would the money go to the board, that I was not referring to this board. So I just want to make that very, very, very clear. I was referencing the GOVAC board, and I just think it's important for everybody to be aware that I was not insinuating that. And thank you, Joe, for I think you were dropping a hey, you know. And I also want to just say thank everyone in here as I came into this town hall to seek information and talk to people. I can't say enough good. Everyone in here was so pleasant, so accommodating, so inviting, not making me feel like I was a nuisance, even though I know I was coming in. So this building, you guys have great staff here.
Thank you. Anybody else? Bill, nothing?
I think you guys keep just waiting
Bob,
for me to
nothing?
sit down, and then you say something.
You got nothing for me?
I understand.
You've had enough, Joe.
All right, well, that being said,
Other things,
you got next week?
I thought you were gonna make it. You're gonna talk. You're not getting that way.
All right, with that being said, can I get a motion to close the town board meeting March? Oh, before I do that, we will be going into an executive session on a potential legal matter not to come back. Do I have a motion to close the March 23rd, 2023 meeting?
Without
Without coming back. So moved. Second.
Second.
All in favor?